I had it all, or at least that's what I thought. A family who loved me, a steady job, a future I had worked hard to build. I was content. But one phone call shattered it all, tore down everything I had spent years building, and left me standing in the wreckage of my life. I remember that day like it was yesterday. It started off normal enough. I woke up to the usual routine, the hum of the coffee machine, the rustling of the morning newspaper, and Lily, my sister, sitting at the kitchen table. Her presence was comforting. She was my family. We had been close, trusted each other implicitly. That's what family was supposed to be, right? I didn't suspect a thing as I kissed her goodbye and left for work. But as the hours passed, something felt off. The air in my office felt heavier than usual, and the morning passed without the normal rhythm. I was distracted. Something didn't sit right in the pit of my stomach. The call came in the afternoon. It was from a colleague, someone I hadn't expected to hear from, someone who worked closely with Lily. "Hey, you got a minute?" he asked, his voice cautious. "Sure, what's going on?" I replied, not knowing that this would be the call that would destroy everything. "Look, I don't know how to say this, but I've been hearing some things about Lily." There was an uncomfortable pause. "I think you need to know about it." "What do you mean?" "What's going on?" My heart began to race, but I couldn't put my finger on why. "She's been taking money, your money." I didn't want to believe it at first, but I've seen the paperwork, the transfers. She's been stealing from you, from the company. "I thought you should know." I stood there, frozen. My sister stealing from me? From the family business? It didn't make sense. Lily had always been supportive, my rock in a world of chaos. She was the one person I trusted completely. The idea that she could betray me was impossible. "Are you sure?" I asked, my voice shaking with disbelief. "I'm sorry, man," he said, sounding genuinely sorry. "But I've seen the records. She's been taking opportunities and money, and I don't know what to tell you?" I didn't know what to say. My mind was racing, unable to make sense of what I was hearing. I hung up the phone without another word and drove straight to the office. I needed answers. I needed to know if it was true. When I walked in, there she was, sitting at her desk, looking just as I remembered, the smile that had always comforted me now a distant memory. I took a deep breath and walked up to her. "Lily," I said, my voice tight with emotion. "I need to talk to you." She looked up, her eyes flicking to mine with a hint of surprise. "What's wrong?" she asked, her tone just a little too casual. "You need to tell me the truth," I said, the words coming out more sharply than I intended. "Are you stealing from me?" Her eyes widened, but she quickly regained her composure. "What are you talking about?" "Don't lie to me," I said, my voice breaking as I took a step closer. "I know what you've been doing. I know you've been stealing from the company from me." Her face remained unreadable for a moment, before a small, tight smile curled at the corner of her lips. "Oh," she said, her voice strangely calm, "so you found out. You betrayed me." I spat, barely able to control the anger flooding through me. "How could you do this to me, to us?" She looked at me, not with remorse, but with something else, something cold, calculating. "You were always too soft, too trusting. You don't understand how things work. I needed this. I deserve this." I stared at her, shocked. "You deserve this? You're my sister, Lily. I trusted you with everything." She stood up, her expression hardening. "You never really understood, did you? I've been in your shadow for too long. You always had everything handed to you. I worked hard for this. I earned it, but you just walked through life like it was all yours." My heart sank, and I felt the air leaving my lungs. "You're saying that you did this for money? For some kind of revenge? What could you possibly gain from this?" She sighed, her eyes narrowing with impatience. "It's not about revenge. It's about getting what's mine. I've been overlooked my whole life. I've been waiting for you to screw up, and now that you have, I'm not going to sit around anymore." I felt a wave of nausea rise in my stomach as the words sank in. She wasn't sorry. She wasn't even regretful. She was cold. "You don't care that you've destroyed me, do you?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. The weight of everything, the lies, the betrayal, the broken trust crushed me. She didn't answer, just stared at me with those calculating eyes, as if I was a mere obstacle she had finally overcome. I felt my world crumble beneath me. The sister I'd trusted, the one person who knew me better than anyone else, had destroyed everything for money, for power. And worse, she showed no remorse, no apology. "You've made a huge mistake," I said, my voice low but firm. and I won't forget this." "Don't worry," she said, the smirk on her lips growing wider. "You'll get over it." I turned and walked away, not saying another word. My heart was shattered, but in that moment, I knew I would never let her or anyone like her break me again. I was done being the victim. The day after I confronted Lily, I couldn't function. I couldn't even get out of bed. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her face, that cold, calculating expression. It had been a day like any other, but now everything was different. My world was upside down, and I couldn't find my footing. I didn't go to work the next day, or the day after. I didn't want to face the world. I didn't want to face anyone. I couldn't stop replaying the betrayal in my head, her words, her indifference. She had stolen from me, and yet she acted like it was nothing. Worse, she acted like I was the one in the wrong for confronting her. I sat in the same clothes for days. My phone went untouched. I didn't want to talk to anyone. Friends, co-workers, even the ones who had tried to reach out to me. Everything felt distant. Everything felt like a reminder of who I used to be before I realized how fragile everything was. I couldn't stop thinking about the last thing Lily said to me, the way she dismissed me like I was nothing. "You'll get over it." Those words haunted me, like a constant buzz in my ear. I wanted to scream at her, to make her feel the pain she had caused, but what was the point? She didn't care. It wasn't like anything I could say would change her mind. She was too far gone, consumed by her greed. I dragged myself out of bed a few days later. My eyes were red from the lack of sleep, and the weight of it all felt like a heavy coat I couldn't take off. I knew I couldn't keep doing this, but the thought of facing the world again, I didn't know if I had the strength. I stumbled into the kitchen, making a cup of coffee, if I could even call it that. The bitter taste hit me like a jolt of electricity, and for a moment I thought maybe I could feel something other than numbness. Just as I stood there trying to collect myself, I heard the unmistakable buzz of my phone. I glanced at the screen. It was a text from Mark. "Hey man, haven't heard from you in a while. You good?" I stared at it for a long moment, my finger hovering over the screen. I could feel the heaviness in my chest, the overwhelming weight of everything I hadn't dealt with, but I couldn't ignore him. He was one of the few people I hadn't completely pushed away. "I'm not good," I typed back, the words feeling like they weighed 1,000 pounds. "I'm a mess. Everything's falling apart." "Talk to me," Mark replied immediately. I stared at the words on my phone for a while. I knew what he meant. He was offering me an out, a chance to talk, to unload, but I couldn't bring myself to share the full extent of what I was going through. I didn't want to admit that my own sister had torn everything I knew apart. I typed a reply, keeping it vague. "It's just Lily. She betrayed me. I didn't see it coming." He didn't respond right away, but I could hear the weight of his silence in the air. Finally, a message came through. "I'm sorry, man. I had no idea. But listen, I know you. You're strong. This isn't you. Don't let her destroy you. You've got a future ahead of you." I didn't know what to say. The truth was, I felt weak. I felt like I was unraveling, like the person I once was had been ripped away. "I don't know who I am anymore," I sent. "Everything feels fake. I've lost my sense of direction." Mark's reply came quickly. "You haven't lost anything. You're just going through something. I'm here for you, whenever you're ready to talk." The warmth of his words should have been comforting, but instead, they reminded me of just how alone I felt. I didn't even know who I was anymore, let alone who I wanted to be. I turned off the phone, feeling my mind drifting back to the moment I found out about Lily's betrayal. That cold, emotionless look on her face. I kept thinking about the look in her eyes when she told me she deserved it. How could she say that? After everything we'd been through, after all the trust, how could she just throw it all away for money? I stood there, my hand gripping the counter, the hot coffee now cold in my hands. I couldn't understand it, and I wasn't sure I ever would. I don't know when I fell asleep, but when I woke up, something felt different. The sun was still low in the sky, casting a dim light through the blinds, but I felt an unfamiliar sensation. A flicker of something in the back of my mind. For a moment, I thought I was still dreaming. But as I looked around, I realized I was back in my old apartment, back before everything had fallen apart. I sat up, rubbing my eyes, trying to make sense of it. Had I gone mad? Was I imagining this? No. This was real. I was back in the past, months before Lily's betrayal, before she ruined everything. It took a few moments for the reality of it to settle in. This was a second chance, a chance to fix everything before it all fell apart. I could feel the anger, the hurt, the confusion welling up inside me, but there was something else too, a renewed sense of purpose. I wasn't going to make the same mistakes again. I wasn't going to let myself be the man I was, weak, confused, lost in her betrayal. No, I was going to be different this time. I was going to rebuild myself. I would make sure Lily couldn't hurt me again. I stood up, determination flooding my veins. The path ahead of me was clear now. I wasn't going to sit around waiting for life to happen to me. I was going to take control. I would rise above it all, stronger than before. This time, I wasn't going to let her win. I woke up and blinked, unsure of where I was at first. The morning light was streaming through the blinds, casting a soft glow across the room. I stretched and sat up, rubbing my eyes, still groggy from a restless sleep. It took a second for the realization to hit me. I wasn't in the same place I had been for the past few months. I was in my old apartment, the one I hadn't stepped into in ages, the one that felt like a lifetime ago. I stared at the room, everything familiar but strangely distant. The furniture, the pictures on the walls, everything looked just as it had before everything fell apart. But now something felt different. There was a heaviness in the air, a sense of déjà vu that made my stomach churn. It took a while to process what was happening. The betrayal, the heartbreak, the downward spiral I'd fallen into, all of it was gone. I was back in the past before it all started. I could feel the weight of it pressing against my chest, but at the same time, there was something else stirring inside me, a strange, unfamiliar determination. This is my second chance. I didn't understand how it was happening, but I wasn't going to waste it. I wasn't going to make the same mistakes again. The pain of what had happened to me was fresh in my mind, but it didn't consume me. Instead, it fueled me. This time, I was going to get things right. I was going to be the person I had always wanted to be, the person who had let go of the past and didn't get caught up in its mistakes. I grabbed my phone, the screen glowing with messages, emails, and missed calls. Everything that had piled up during the months I'd been spiraling. Work, messages, responsibilities, all of it. But none of that mattered now. I wasn't going to let it overwhelm me. I closed the phone and stood up, feeling the weight of the moment. This was the beginning. I wasn't going to be the person I was before. Weak, indecisive, broken. I was going to rise above it. It was time to rebuild. And rebuilding meant more than just focusing on my career. It meant taking control of everything that had once slipped through my fingers. The first thing I did was make a plan. No more waiting for opportunities to fall into my lap. No more relying on others to help me. I was going to take action. I was going to fix everything I had lost. I got dressed quickly, almost mechanically, my mind already racing ahead. I headed out the door, the world outside looking the same, but I was different. The weight of the past no longer weighed me down. I could almost feel the shift in the air around me. By the time I made it to the office that once felt so familiar, but now seemed like a place I was reclaiming, I was ready. I walked in with a newfound purpose, each step feeling like a small victory. The faces around the office barely acknowledged me, but that was okay. They didn't need to know yet. I was focused on my own goals now, not their expectations. "Hey, you back?" Mark asked when he saw me walking past his desk. He had been one of the few people who had actually stuck around, even when everything was falling apart. "Yeah, back at it," I said, nodding. I wasn't sure what he expected me to say, but I wasn't ready to open up. Not yet. "Got a lot of catching up to do." He gave me a half smile, clearly trying to gauge if I was truly back or just pretending. "I hope you're ready to get back into it. They've been saying you're the one to watch." I couldn't help the smirk that tugged at my lips. Let them watch. I'm not here to be overlooked anymore. As the day went on, I dove headfirst into work. Every task, every email, every meeting felt like an opportunity to rebuild. I wasn't just doing the bare minimum anymore. I was taking the lead, asserting myself and setting the tone. I made sure that every decision I made was calculated, precise. I wasn't going to be the passive one anymore. I was going to take charge. The more I worked, the more I could feel the shift inside me. The fear and doubt that had once crippled me were gone. I was confident, self-assured, and determined. The future was mine to shape, and I wasn't going to waste it. It wasn't long before I started to notice changes in the way people viewed me. Colleagues who had once ignored me were now paying attention, asking for my opinion, seeking my advice. The respect I had craved before was finally starting to come to me. Slowly but surely, I was rising, but as I gained momentum, I couldn't ignore the shadow of Lily hanging over me. She was still a part of my life, even if I didn't want her to be. She had betrayed me. I couldn't forget that. And even though I had been given this second chance, the anger I felt toward her still simmered beneath the surface. But now I wasn't consumed by it. Now I had control. One evening, while I was at my desk, catching up on some paperwork, my phone buzzed. It was a text from Lily. "I'm sorry. I know I've hurt you. Can we talk?" My heart tightened at the words, but I didn't feel the same pull I had before. Before, I would have dropped everything to hear her out, to try to fix things. But not anymore. I stared at the message for a moment, my thumb hovering over the keyboard. I knew what I should do. Ignore it, delete it, move on. But instead, I typed back one simple response. There's nothing left to say. I hit send and set the phone down. It felt strange. It felt final. But it was the right choice. The past was behind me. I was moving forward, and Lily was no longer a part of my future. By the end of the week, I had already secured a new project, a high-profile one that would put me in front of the company's leaders. I had earned my place at the table, and no one would take it from me. This time I wasn't waiting for approval. I was taking control. I stood in front of the mirror that evening, looking at the man staring back at me. He wasn't the same man who had been betrayed. He wasn't the same man who had let his sister tear his life apart. He was someone stronger, someone who had rebuilt his life from the ashes of the past. He was no longer a victim. I was a force to be reckoned with. Things started to change. And not just a little, everything began to shift. I could feel it in the air, the way people looked at me now. I wasn't the same guy I had been before. Not the one who let himself be betrayed by Lily, the one who had been so naive. That person was gone.
And the new me?
Well, he was here to take what was rightfully his. I kept my focus. Work was my world now, and I wasn't going to let anything or anyone stop me. I pushed through my days, eyes locked on the prize. Slowly, respect began to come my way. My ideas were getting noticed. I was getting noticed, but of course Lily. Lily couldn't just stay away. It started with a text, "We need to talk."
Can I see you?
I stared at the screen for a few moments, letting the words settle in. I had known this day would come. She had to know that she couldn't control me anymore, but she wasn't giving up, was she? Not without a fight. I hadn't responded immediately, but that night she called. I let the phone ring, the tension building inside me. Finally, I picked up. "Hello? Why are you doing this?" Her voice was softer than I remembered, almost pleading. "Why can't we go back to the way things were?" I could already hear the manipulation, the subtle pull in her words. She was desperate, I could tell. She hadn't changed. Not really. "Lily," I said, leaning back in my chair, trying to keep my voice calm. "You threw that all away. You made your choice." "I never meant for it to get like this," she said quickly. "I didn't mean to hurt you." "Then why did you?" "Why did you take everything from me?" I asked, my tone hardening. "Why did you betray me?" There was a pause, and I could feel her hesitation on the other end. "I was confused," she whispered. "I thought I was doing what was best for me. I thought it would make everything better." I almost laughed, but I didn't. "You don't get to play the victim anymore." "Lily, not after what you did." "Please," she continued, her voice breaking now. "I need you. I can't fix this without you. You're the only one who understands me." Her words hit me, but they didn't have the power they once did. The woman who stood before me was no longer the sister I trusted. She was just a liar, a manipulator. "I've moved on," I said firmly. "I've moved on from you, from all of it. You can't pull me back." She didn't respond. The silence stretched for a few seconds, but I knew. I knew she wasn't going to give up. She'd keep trying to worm her way back in, but I wasn't going to let her. "I'm done here, Lily," I said, my voice colder than I meant. "Don't contact me again." I ended the call before she could say anything else. The anger that had bubbled up inside me started to fade, replaced by a sharp sense of finality. I was in control now, not her, not anyone. But my problems weren't just confined to Lily. Richard, the colleague I had once trusted, started showing his true colors. At first, I didn't want to believe it. After all, Richard and I had shared some successes together. I had thought he was someone I could count on. But now I could see the cracks in his facade, and what I saw wasn't pretty. It started with little things, undermining my ideas in meetings, taking credit for my work, throwing me under the bus when the higher-ups asked questions. At first, I chalked it up to office politics, but the more I paid attention, the more I realized he was actively trying to sabotage me. One day, it came to a head. I had been working on a huge project, one that could take my career to the next level, but Richard, as usual, tried to twist things in his favor. I overheard him in the hallway talking to a few other colleagues. "You need to make sure this project doesn't get too much attention," Richard was saying. "We can't let my name take all the credit for this. We need to keep things under control." I felt a surge of fury, but I kept it inside. I had learned that patience was my weapon now, and I wasn't going to let his petty games distract me. Instead, I listened. "What are you going to do about it?" someone asked. "Don't worry. I've got it covered," Richard said with a smirk. "I'll make sure he doesn't get the upper hand." The words hit me hard. Richard was trying to take me down, and he was using every trick in the book to do it. But this time, I wasn't going to let him get away with it. The next morning, I came in early. Richard was already at his desk, his usual smug expression plastered on his face. I walked past him without a word, heading straight to the conference room. I didn't need to confront him directly. No, I was going to play this differently. I was smarter now. I had learned everything I needed to know. I called a meeting, and Richard was the last to walk in. As he sat down, I noticed the way his eyes flicked nervously to mine. He knew something was up. I started the meeting, speaking with the confidence I had been building for weeks. I laid out the plans for the project, the one Richard had tried to undermine, presenting the facts clearly and decisively. I made sure to include everyone, involving people Richard had tried to isolate. As I spoke, I could see the control slipping from Richard's hands. His face reddened. He tried to speak up, but every time he did, I cut him off with more facts, more details, things he had overlooked. It wasn't hard. He had underestimated me, and now it was costing him. By the end of the meeting, I knew I had won. Richard sat there, his hands clenched on the table, but he didn't say a word. I had taken back control, and this time I wasn't backing down. The power shift had begun. I walked out of that room feeling different, stronger, more in control than I had ever felt before. And Lily, she no longer had any hold over me. Richard, he was next. It was inevitable. I had known this day would come, but I had hoped just for a moment that maybe I was wrong, that maybe Lily would stay away for good. But no, she couldn't help herself. She never could. The phone buzzed on my desk, the name on the screen making my blood run cold. Lily. I stared at the screen for a few moments, my mind racing. It had been weeks since I'd heard from her, and the last time I had made it clear there was nothing left to discuss. Yet here she was, reaching out again. I wasn't sure whether to pick up or ignore it, but curiosity won out. "Hello?" I answered, my voice colder than I intended. Her voice trembled, and I almost didn't recognize her. It was a far cry from the cold indifference she had shown me before. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean for things to get like this." I didn't say anything right away. I was too focused on keeping my composure. She was playing the victim again, trying to pull me back in with her manipulative words. But this time I wasn't going to fall for it. "I had learned too much, been burned too many times. I know I've hurt you," she continued, her voice cracking slightly. I'm losing everything. Richard's gone cold. The company is falling apart, and I have nothing left. "I'm sorry." I leaned back in my chair, not surprised by the desperation in her voice. "So what now? You want me to feel sorry for you?" No, she said quickly. I just want a chance. A chance to fix things. Please, I need you. You're the only one who can help me." I could feel the anger bubbling up inside me, but I swallowed it down. "Help you? After everything you did to me, you still think I'd help you? You betrayed me, Lily. You took everything I had, and for what? A quick buck? Power?" "I wasn't thinking," she said, almost pleading. "I wasn't thinking about how much I was hurting you. I was just desperate." but I see it now. I see what I've done, and I'll do anything to make it right. I shook my head, staring at the wall in front of me. No, you don't get to come back from this. You don't get to fix anything. You've already made your choice, and I'm not going to play along with this charade anymore. I've moved on. I heard her silent breath on the other end of the line, and for a moment, I thought she might say something else. Apologize again, maybe. But I didn't need her apologies anymore. What good would they do me now? They were meaningless, just empty words. I can't help you, Lily, not anymore, I said firmly. Goodbye. I ended the call without waiting for her response. I didn't want to hear it. I didn't need any more of her excuses or manipulations. The rest of the day passed in a blur. My mind kept returning to the conversation, to her desperate voice, but I didn't let it distract me. I had a job to do, and it was time to focus on that. No more distractions. No more looking back. Later that evening, as I sat in my office, the phone buzzed again. This time it was Richard. I didn't even have to check the screen to know it was him. His name had become synonymous with manipulation in my mind. I answered the call. What do you want, Richard? Don't be like that. His voice came through smooth and patronizing as ever. I just wanted to talk. You've been making a lot of waves around here. I leaned back in my chair, rolling my eyes. Yeah, I'm sure you're really concerned about that. Listen, I've been in this business a long time, he continued, as though trying to assert some kind of dominance. I know how things work. You don't just come in here and expect everything to be handed to you. I've built this company, and you're not just going to take it from me. His words were like nails on a chalkboard. I could hear the arrogance dripping from every syllable. He was threatened, I could tell. Richard wasn't used to someone standing up to him. He was used to being in control, used to having everyone bend to his will. You're right, I said, my tone deadpan. You've built this company on lies, manipulation, and your need to control everyone around you. I'm not going to play by your rules anymore. Richard didn't respond right away, and I could feel the tension on the other end of the line. He was probably trying to think of how to manipulate the situation to his advantage, but I wasn't going to let him. I'm done with you, Richard, I said, my voice growing colder. I know exactly what you've been doing, and it's over. Don't be so naive, Richard said, his voice tightening. You think you're going to just walk in and take everything I've worked for? I built this. You'll never be the one in charge here. Maybe not, I said, my voice steady and full of purpose. But I'm already in control of my own future, and you've already lost. I hung up before he could say another word. For the first time, I didn't feel the rush of fear or doubt. Richard had lost his power over me. It was over. I stood up from my desk, walking to the window and looking out at the city below. The weight of everything, of what I had lost and what I was about to gain, felt heavy, but it was also liberating. I was in control now. Not Richard. Not Lily. Me. The next day, the meeting that would decide everything was set. I walked in like I owned the place. Richard had already positioned himself at the head of the table, trying to assert dominance, but I wasn't intimidated. Not anymore. I presented the facts, his manipulation, his attempts to sabotage me, the lies he had been spreading behind the scenes. I watched as his arrogance crumbled in front of the room. He tried to argue, but every move he made only made his position weaker. By the end of the meeting, I was in control. Richard was exposed for what he truly was. A man driven by greed, willing to tear down everything in his path to maintain power. But he had underestimated me. Now the company was mine. And Richard? He was nothing more than a warning of what happens when you let your ego run wild. As the meeting ended, I sat back in my chair, the weight of victory settling over me. I had reclaimed everything. I had taken control. And for the first time in a long time, I could finally breathe. The battle was over. I knew this day would come. The final confrontation, the moment when everything would either collapse or I'd rise above it all. Lily and Richard both had played their parts in my downfall, but now it was time to see them both for what they truly were: weak, manipulative, desperate. The phone rang as I sat at my desk, the hum of the office around me. I picked it up without hesitation. Hello? I said, my voice steady, almost detached. Please, came the voice on the other end. It was Lily. There was something different about her tone this time. Desperation. Please, can we talk? I know I've done terrible things, but I need your help. I felt the old stirrings of anger rise, but I kept them in check. You've already made your choice, Lily. It's too late for this. I know, she stammered, but I've lost everything. I thought I could manage it, but Richard, he's not who I thought he was. He doesn't care about me. I need you. I can't lose everything. Her words should have made me feel something. Maybe pity, maybe even sorrow for the sister I once knew. But all I felt was a sharp clarity. She was just another casualty of her own greed. She had destroyed herself and she wanted me to fix it. But I wouldn't. Not anymore. You don't get to ask for help after everything you've done, I said coldly. You made your bed, Lily. Now lie in it. There was silence on the other end. I waited for her to say something. Apologize, plead, whatever it was that would have brought me back to her. But she didn't. I could hear the faint sound of her breathing, like she was coming to terms with the fact that there was no going back. I'm sorry, she whispered. Goodbye, Lily, I said, my voice final. I hung up without waiting for her response. The door to that part of my life was closed. I wasn't going to let her back in, no matter how much she begged. I sat there for a long time after that, staring at the phone. A weight had been lifted from me. But there was still Richard to deal with. It didn't take long for him to show up at my door. He had been waiting, lurking in the background, trying to figure out his next move. But I knew exactly what he was trying to do. He was desperate. Desperate to maintain control. Desperate to hold on to the power that was slipping away from him. Can we talk? Richard said, standing in the doorway, his posture stiff, as if he were still trying to assert dominance. You've got 5 minutes, I said, not looking up from my desk. He stepped inside, glancing around the room like he was inspecting his territory. But it wasn't his territory anymore. Not for a long time. I know you've been trying to play me, I said, finally meeting his eyes. The lies, the manipulation, it's all been exposed. You've lost. Richard's eyes narrowed. You think you can just come in here and take everything from me? I built this place. You can't just... I didn't come here to take anything from you, I interrupted, my voice cold. You lost everything when you decided to play games. You've been caught in your own web of lies. I'm just here to make sure you don't drag anyone else down with you. He stepped forward, his hands clenched into fists. You're nothing without me. Do you really think anyone's going to follow you? You don't have the experience, the expertise. I stood up, walking around my desk to face him head on. I don't need you, Richard. What I need is for you to leave. You've had your run. Now it's my turn. He gritted his teeth, but the fear was there. I could see it in his eyes. The fear that he was losing control. The fear that I was about to expose him for everything he was. And I was. I've been keeping track of your little schemes, I said, leaning forward. The deals you've made behind closed doors, the money you've funneled into your own pockets. I know everything. Richard took a step back, his face pale. You can't... I already have, I said, cutting him off. And now everyone else will know. I turned to my laptop, bringing up the files, the evidence. I wasn't just going to let him slither away again. I was going to end this for good. I clicked a few buttons and the files were sent out to the board members. Everyone who needed to know exactly what kind of man Richard was. There, I said, straightening up. It's done. He didn't say anything at first, just stood there, seething. But then, as the realization hit him, I saw his entire demeanor crumble. His shoulders slumped, his chest deflated. He had no power left. His empire was falling apart, and I had just pulled the last thread. Don't think you've won, Richard said, his voice shaky, full of venom. You can't just... It's over, I interrupted, my voice calm, but full of finality. You had your chance and you blew it. Now get out! He turned, his back to me as he walked toward the door. You won't get away with this. I just shook my head. I already have. The moment the door shut behind him, I sank back into my chair. I felt a strange mix of satisfaction and exhaustion, as if I had just fought a battle and won. I looked out the window, watching the city below. It was a beautiful day, but I was no longer just a part of it. I was in control of my own fate now. Lily, Richard, both of them were behind me. I had walked away from the shadows they cast over my life, and now I was free. I didn't need them anymore. I didn't need anyone's approval. What I had built, this new life, this new version of myself, was all mine. And no one was going to take it from me. I was finally at peace. I was finally in control. It's hard to believe how far I've come. I sit here at the head of the company now, the name on the door bearing my signature, the weight of it feeling both surreal and earned. For the first time in a long while, I don't feel like an imposter. I don't feel like I'm just riding someone else's coattails or waiting for life to happen to me. I'm the one making the decisions now. I'm the one in control. It's been months since I walked away from the wreckage of my old life, months since I left behind the betrayal, the heartache, and the manipulation. Lily's voice, her desperate calls and texts no longer echo in my mind. She's nothing but a shadow of my past now, and I have no space for her in my future. I lean back in my chair, gazing out the window at the city below. The world looks different from up here. It's not just the view, it's me. I've changed. I've grown stronger, wiser. I've rebuilt myself from the ashes of everything that tried to tear me down. But even now, as I sit at the top, I can't help but think about how much I've had to lose to get here. The phone buzzes on my desk, pulling me from my thoughts. I glance at the screen. It's a message from Elena. She's been trying to reach me for the past week. I don't even hesitate before I tap it open. I know I've hurt you. I made a mistake and I want to make it right. Please, let's talk. I've changed. I laugh bitterly at the words. Change? What did she think? That after everything, I'd just welcome her back into my life with open arms? I stare at the message, my thumb hovering over the keyboard. I could respond, but what would it matter? What would it change? The person I was when I was with her is gone. He doesn't exist anymore. I delete the message, my finger not trembling once. No second chances. Not for her. Not for anyone who thinks they can break me and then walk back in when things get convenient for them. The phone buzzes again, but this time I don't even look at it. I don't need to. I've moved on, and that part of my life is closed. The next morning I walk into the office with a sense of calm I've never known before. I pass the familiar faces in the hall, people I used to know but never really saw. Now as I walk past, I realize I'm no longer just another face in the crowd. I'm the one they look to now. When I reach the conference room, the board members are already seated. They look up when I enter, some with hesitant glances, others with admiration, but none with the same doubt they once had. I sit at the head of the table and take my seat, the weight of leadership finally feeling like it belongs to me. Morning, I say to the room. My voice is steady, controlled. Let's get started. I don't waste time with pleasantries. The agenda is laid out, but it's not the company's current operations that weigh on me anymore. It's my future, the future I've built with my own hands. I think it's time we discuss our next moves, I say, my eyes sweeping over the group. We've been stagnating, and it's time we take things to the next level. I've got a few ideas I'd like to implement. The room goes silent, and I feel the power shift. They are no longer the ones in charge. They look to me for guidance now, not the other way around. I've earned that right. I've earned their respect. The meeting goes smoothly, and by the end of it, I've secured the backing I need for my next big step. As I leave the conference room, my mind is already working, already thinking about what comes next. But then as I step into the hallway, I catch sight of Richard. He's standing by the elevator, his usual confident stance, but something's different. There's a nervousness in his eyes. I stop just for a moment before I walk up to him. He looks at me, and I can see the apprehension in his gaze. It's almost like he's waiting for me to do something, anything, to acknowledge him. I don't give him the satisfaction. You're still here? I ask, raising an eyebrow. Thought you'd be long gone by now. He clears his throat, trying to regain some of his old bravado. I'm still valuable around here, he says, his voice a little too sharp. I chuckle, and it feels like a victory. Not anymore. You've overstayed your welcome. His eyes flash with something, anger, maybe, or fear. I don't care. You think you've won, don't you? He sneers, trying to keep his composure. I know I've won, I say, my voice low and steady. And you? You're just a reminder of what happens when you let greed and betrayal rule your life. For a moment, he stands there, his fists clenched at his sides. But then, with a huff, he turns and walks away, the sound of his shoes echoing down the hallway. I watch him go, and I can't help but feel a sense of finality. This battle is over. Richard is a relic of a time I've left behind. And Lily, well, she was already gone. Both of them are now nothing but distant memories. They no longer have any power over me. I walk away, feeling the weight of the past lift off my shoulders. It's time for me to move forward. No more distractions. No more looking back. I return to my office, sitting in the chair that now feels like it was made for me. The past is gone. I've left behind the man who was betrayed, the man who allowed others to control him. In his place is someone stronger, someone who understands the true meaning of power. I look out the window, watching the city buzz below, but it's no longer my world to merely observe. It's mine to command. My future is in my hands, and nothing will stop me from claiming what's mine.